war game anytime. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Any War Game Anytime. My name is Bozz, and I'm joined today by Dan and Sam. Always good to have you guys here. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, doing great. I think all of us had a busy weekend.
Yeah.
Then a little busier weekend than we expected, but no, I'm doing great, doing great.
Cool. How you doing, Sam?
Living the life.
Yes. So, if you're just crawling out from under the rock you live in, you may not be aware that One Page Rules version 3.3 dropped recently, and yeah, there were some changes. There were some changes, and some of them are a little more controversial than others. And so today we're going to be diving in and talking about it and kind of seeing what we all think about it and seeing what we think moving forward might be some alterations that could be made. And so I'll pass over to Dan. Why don't you start us off?
Boy, that's a man. I do think we need to preface this, right? We need to me, Sam, and Boz, we've been very positive about OPR. I think that even at times, especially remember our similar update we did with 3.2, and Boz had some concerns, felt it was too rushed, and here we still, I think I even defended them at that time. Maybe Boz, you didn't, not that you were horrendously, you were like, hey, maybe it's
No,
too far.
there were some things that kind of gave me some concern for sure.
Yeah, but I think even at that time we were like, okay, let's just, give them the benefit of a doubt.
Yeah. So we want you to remember that when we talk
Well,
today.
I mean, and we're not gonna like get into all the specifics. You guys, if you're watching, OPR, you could follow the specific what was changed. I think we're trying today, maybe Boz, Sam, to just maybe dig a little deeper into sort of like everyone knows the changes, what's sort of going on here. But I think that's important. But like at the same time, me, Sam, and Boz, we started this channel to be fair and neutral, I believe, right? Sam, what is our slogan?
I've been roped into saying this every time now because I came up with it.
That's
So
right.
we go where the game is good, right?
So,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
where the game's good, we talk about it, and where the game's not so good, we talk about that too. And no one gets special treatment.
and I think even now, I think all of us have this urge. We like OPR. We all have this urge to try and soften it, and I want to at least. But it's just we are seeing a pattern, Boss. Maybe because you saw it earlier than me. Maybe you want
Yeah.
to talk about that pattern, Boss. How do you want to start this? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was present for the live stream where things were being announced and whatnot. The live stream was on a couple of hours late, so I was kind of quite late to the party because I thought it wasn't going to happen. And I kind of came on just at the end of the rules chat and whatnot, and I was scrolling back through the chat and I was seeing, this brand new thing called Assault, and I was seeing there was some sort of change to how Shaken works and things like that. And I put a question up on there for Gaetano to answer at the end, and it was something like, "This is a pretty big update. What happened to updating small things every 3 months and doing one big update a year?" Now he'd said last month that that's what was going to be happening moving forward. Maybe I misunderstood that, and he said that's a thing we're thinking of. But yeah, I had thought he'd said this is what we're doing. So he announced again this month that that's something that they are thinking of doing. So that was a bit confusing. But anyway, his answer when he got around to it was, "This isn't a big update. These are just small changes." And
Yeah. And
you know,
if this is a small
I
change,
know,
I'm not sure what a big change is.
I know, I heard that and I
Big,
thought,
big,
well, that's not really true at all. You've introduced an entirely new mechanic unnecessarily, in my opinion, to the game, and that
yeah,
there's
see the big
there's
the big
big
change
stuff.
the big change that's coming is they're going to switch us all over to D8s, right? I mean, that
my
would be
goodness.
the like what we're talking about here, right? It's like, come
I
on.
mean, I'm gonna sort of go a little further than Boz. Man, this is feeling a bigger update than even 2.0 to 3.0.
I would agree.
It
Yeah, because
really
assault,
is really fundamentally changing. So much so that Boz, Sam, I know myself, I don't understand that. Like people are throughout this weekend as content creators, they've been reaching out to us. Hey, what are you thinking here? And like, what are your suggestions to fix this? And I have no idea. I mean,
yeah, because
it's
assault
so
forces you to
much to
assault
process. Like,
assault
like
forces you to fundamentally reevaluate every unit selection.
yeah,
That's how big of a change that is. Is because you have now this new option. You know, your units work fundamentally in a very different way now, and it's
Yeah,
like that's
even
a
your units that
huge.
aren't hybrid units, they still have to now take into account what hybrid units can do.
Yeah,
Even if you do have to get into that 6-inch charge range and whatnot, it's still a massive shift to the game.
it is a huge shift, and
it,
it's
and it
like
does
it's
feel it feels tacked on. Like it doesn't to me have sort of the elegance that like it flow. Like you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
funny, Boz, because I would suggest anyone go watch that 3.2 initial reactions where really me and Oz disagreed. If you remember, Boz, you didn't want massive changes, but I did, right?
Hmm.
You remember that, right? I was like, no, I want to have some more. And I'll be honest with you, when I initially first heard about these updates, I actually was happy. I was, oh, good. There are more changes. That's great. I think the problem is that once one, what he communicated on his call, I have to say this, I don't think he, even the small change, I do not think he fully realizes what he changed. And I don't know how else to say that, that I don't, it's the most worrying thing to me
Yeah.
is that it just feels like he doesn't understand like
And I think
all that
that
I don't
yeah,
know. I'm confused.
I think that comes through in the myriad of questions in the rules Discord and stuff that have come up seeking clarification on on this one massive new rule and the change to morale, because the way that it's worded, people have got a lot of questions and they don't have all the answers. There's a lot of things that have come up that have said, oh, um, we haven't got words for that. Like, if you declare an assault and you kill some people and they take from the first rank and now you're out of charge range, do you still get to make the charge? And there's no
Seems pretty obvious. I mean, it seems something that's just I I think when I heard this, and it took me a little bit because, like us all, Boz, Sam, all of us got hit with this out of nowhere. All of us are out of nowhere digging in these rules. Hey, by the way, we also have lives. Like, hey, we're Boz. Where's that millionaire? We can do this full time.
Yeah, he's on the back burner for a second.
Yeah.
I've had to deal with 3.3.
So, and I'm gonna say this. I say this as a person who wanted more changes. I guess I should have specified Boz. I expected a certain quality. My,
Well,
did I need to specify that, Boz, that we need
so
to obviously have some little more quality involved in that?
so my big thing with assault isn't actually the rule itself. I don't hate the rule itself. It's not as elegant as it should be for sure. What I have a huge problem with, and what my huge concern is that this new mechanic has been invented out of whole cloth purely to make one type of unit slightly different, slightly more viable. Instead of working on the units, instead of
That's right.
rejigging points allocations, rejigging weapons and stuff, instead of doing the obvious thing and
Yep.
Yeah,
solving the problem where the problem is, a brand new mechanic has been introduced into a game that has built its reputation on being simple
yeah. I feel like you could have just added this as a special rule to the units that needed it, and then
and
you
made
would
them
have
more
not.
expensive for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or adjust the point somehow, because there was an issue where hybrid units kind of uh are overcosted. This has been an issue in OPR for a while. That if you're kind of a hybrid unit, you're a little bit overcosted because you can shoot and you can if you can shoot and you can fight, you're paying for both of those stats, and you're only really realistically using one a lot of times. And so this is like a known issue. I feel like you could have given this as a kind of a special rule to those types of units, but by applying it across the board now, you've just forced us to kind of fundamentally have to rethink a lot of gameplay elements. And that's a huge.
And I'm gonna. This is my personal opinion. I actually don't think hybrid units are the real problem. I think it's that some armies only have access to hybrid units, and therefore it makes like one hybrid unit is actually pretty good if you build the specialized units around it, right? But there are just some armies that only have hybrid units, like Battle Brothers and stuff and other ones. And I by the way, I tack in, I don't care what anyone says, I tack in pistol units in that. Because a pistol on a close combat is an extra 30, 40 points.
Mm.
I mean, this isn't just, a hybrid. This is pistol units as well. For me, count as hybrid. That's a massive amount of points if you think about it,
Yeah, for something that you're rarely going to use.
Yes.
But
and
again, I think the problem here is hybrid units. It's armies based around hybrid units, and rather than go to the source, there's this band-aid being tacked on, and it does very much feel tacked on.
Yeah, I feel like this would have been a good one also to and we were talking about this earlier, to introduce maybe as an optional rule and test out a bit and see how it works. But to kind of put it in the core rules was I don't know. It's just, this feels like a pretty
big,
and it's pretty big ding.
So this is one of these situations. Let's sort of give OPR, and I have no idea who it is. We're not privy to the inner workings of this organization. We're just saying OPR at this point. There was, I think this is going back, that I think sometimes they assume that the Discord is somehow instantaneously publicly everyone who plays OPR is like in line with every nuance that happens on the Discord. I heard about, there was some playtest rules posted in a Discord channel somewhere that someone told me about after the fact.
Yeah, did I?
I'm like, and then I think I saw the rules and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I think like within like a day or two, they're like, oh, we're gonna go live at the end of April. And I'm like, oh, okay. So in other words, I was like, oh, well, I can't even test this, right? So it feels like these rules were just put on, and like maybe there is just some assumption. Like, I think I would suggest the OPR realize that like just posting stuff in a Discord channel and all that, that's not sort of giving that sort of, what's the word? Transparency to the public, right?
Yeah, especially because, and again, I think as we've discussed, there's ways you could have done this that would not have been disruptive. And if those had been, and I would have been fine with look, you introduce this either as an optional rule or as a special rule for certain types of units. And then maybe after a couple of months of people playing with it, they think, oh, you know what, we actually like this rule for everything.
Yeah,
let's put it on.
And getting a range of feedback.
Yes, that makes sense. But just dropping it and kind of like saying, here you go, and good luck.
Yeah, something I found quite telling, and it was kind of disappointing to see. It was actually really disappointing to see because I love the game and I love the company. But on the Discord, Gaetano's on it, and one of the things I saw was someone saying, what's your reaction to the reaction of 3.3 or something like that. And he was basically saying, like, I don't really care what people on YouTube say. Everyone and their dog has a YouTube channel these days. It's not an accurate representation, yada, yada, yada. it was disappointingly dismissive of negative feedback. And
Well, it's also not true either, right? Not everybody and their dog has a YouTube channel.
well, I mean, we
And,
do.
and well, we do, but it's also like, and yeah, we're obviously we're not professionals, but the fact that we are willing to do this and go online and talk about it and set up do a meeting right now
Mm.
and talk about these things is kind of indicative of a certain level of interest,
Investment.
of
Yeah.
investment and interest in the hobby. So it's not true that not that, and I'm not saying that to talk us up, but
No, of
let's
course not.
be
And
clear about what
yeah,
about
all I'm kind of saying is
Well,
that I saw it and I was disappointed to see it because I thought that he took more of the community's views on board.
well, for me, as content creators, we've been in this for it's like getting close to a year in a few months. And I will tell you, all of us have gotten feedback that you don't like our views. And like, hey, get it. We get negative likes and we get down votes about our content. And
Yeah, it's just
hey,
part of
I
the
mean,
game.
yeah.
well,
And I guess for
and
me
it
and
just
for
feeds
us,
my
we've
inner
always
my inner darkness,
yeah. And
Okay.
I think
I sweeten my tea with your tears.
well, I think, and this is something that people don't know. When me, Bozz, and Sam came together, like this all started with us just arguing about things. All of this started with all of us having different opinions. In other words, we literally came into this like all these arguments we're having, or not arguments, but discussions. But I'm saying
Heated
disagreements.
debates.
Disagreements, debates. Yeah, okay. But we went into this just, in other words, disagreement is just part of the narrative for us. If people disagree with us, hey, that's great.
It
One
is,
other person.
especially if it generates discussion, because discussion is good. If you're willing to listen to somebody and hear them, even if their view isn't yours, then you have a better understanding of what you think because you've got another view to kind of bounce off. You might change your mind. You might say, actually, no, I'm pretty sure I'm in the right on this, whatever. But discussion is good. Disagreement is healthy.
Yeah, I think I've heard this, but I don't know. Some people say, well, English isn't his first language. I don't know, and maybe it's true. I don't know the culture. I can only speak for myself. Bozz is around the you probably picked up from Bozz that he's from the England area. Me and Sam are from America, and I
I don't know.
just
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a
Yeah.
Way to out me, dude.
Well, let's speak about our culture in America. I'll speak about me and Sam's culture, where Americans, especially when it comes to professionalism and just running companies and jobs, we sort of have we don't give a care attitude, right? This is your job. Like we just, in American culture, we just, and maybe this is the reason there's a disconnect here. In American culture, we just don't like, we don't take complaining about your job very well because we're like, you're paid to do it. I mean, like complain about other things for Americans, but it's sort of like, you're paid to do it. I mean, just, do your, and so when, when he sort of takes this, I don't know, takes an approach where he's just like some sort of pariah. Like I think as an Americans, and I don't understand his culture, we are just like, what? You're paid to be a game designer. I mean, okay, whatever. So maybe there is a cultural disconnect, and I can agree with that. I don't know. Bozz, how is that? I mean, I don't know how it is in England. What like,
Well,
like,
I'm not going to speak to things that I don't know about because I'll put my foot in that. But it would seem to me that the company has been going on 10 years now. They had their 10-year celebration recently, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And the game, the rules, Gaetano's baby. He said as much. All the rules come from him. He loves writing rules and doing it and stuff. And he also said that he doesn't actually get a chance to play that much anymore. He might do a round or two here and there to test some rules or something like that. And
no, I didn't know that. Oh.
yeah, it was. I think it's something he actually did say on the most recent live stream. I'd have to watch it and double check. It was either there or on the Discord, but I think I actually did hear those words come out of his mouth. It's just whatever the cultural thing may or may not be, it's very disappointing that we've talked up the transparency of OPR and whatnot, and it was just incredibly disappointing to read something from him that said, I don't really value the opinions of the people on YouTube or the people on Facebook or whatever that talked about it. They're not the opinions that I listen to.
For me, I don't mind that. I think it's more about quality of content. And like, in other words, whether we have a YouTube, here's the deal, Bozz, Sam, and myself, I believe that our content should stand on its own, whether we're saying that to on a Facebook page or YouTube.
And our analysis, right? Like
Right.
our reasoning. It's not about, and that's kind of I think in a way you're both right about this, Bozz and Dan. I think you have to kind of know what feedback you can believe and what you can't, and that's an important thing. Like who can you trust to give you honest feedback or not? And an issue that I've seen in other games that will remain nameless currently, that is seeping into OPR is this kind of the fanboy brigade, where the yes men, the people who are going to praise, whatever you do, and also who actively try to shut down negative responses. And it's like, you got to be really careful about those people, because you get into this is where my background is in political science, right? I mean, and this is a kind of a known thing. You get in these echo chambers where the only thing you hear is the people who agree with you and the people who are shutting down debate about, oh well, these people are just being negative, and get them out of here. We only want our positive stuff. And it's like, be really careful about that. That's a dangerous thing for communities to get into when you get into this.
And it's
and let's meet Mr. Gaetano halfway, Bozz. I'll play devil's advocate here. Yeah, everyone does have a YouTube channel. I'm actually okay with that. You know what? Don't trust us. I would say this: don't trust any war game anytime because we have a YouTube channel. Listen to what we have to say. Do your own analysis, right?
Yeah, make up your own minds.
Make up your own minds. We're just going to
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't
mind.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that it was disappointing that he doesn't listen to us specifically and take everything we say as gospel. That would be ridiculous. It was just his kind of general dismissiveness of YouTubers in general. I mean, there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a heap of negativity out there. We pile it on GW, but we give it context. And we've done episodes on what we do like about them. And it's the same with pretty much anything we talk about here. We cover the things that we feel. And at the moment, this is what's going on with One Page Rules. And so that's what we're talking about. We're not going to not talk about it. I put out a post on Facebook recently with these concerns. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't One Page Rules is going down the toilet. It wasn't anything like that. It was, hey, the 4.3's just dropped. These are some concerns that I have. And I got a variety of responses. I got some people who were like, yeah, that was well said. These are valid concerns. Other people who said the same thing, but added, I'm not concerned about them myself, and here's why. And, the rabid people who were just responses weren't
if you don't like the game, don't play.
But like, worse than that, just not worth engaging with. But somewhere there were those people who were just like, the game's awesome, leave it alone. If you don't like it, don't play it. If you don't like these rules, play the old rules. It's not one response.
Was it awesome?
Went on this massive
this week or last week? What we don't know what that means.
Yeah. one person went on this massive rant, and he was like, you know, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it should be banned. If you don't like anal sex, do you want to ban anal sex? And it was like, like it was really hardcore. And it kind of finished with, this isn't your game, this is his game. He can do whatever the F he wants to do with this game, and you can just lump it. And it was like, well, that's a really interesting view to take. You know, I'm a player of this game, I'm invested in this game, and I've got concerns about it, and I'm sharing them to generate discussion.
Well, let's turn that in a bit of the other way. It is his game, and do you know how much his game is worth? Nothing. Do you know why? If people don't play his game, people aren't paying him. That's how much his game is worth. So let's just, again, hey, it is his game. That's great. The value of it, but guess what? The value of his game is determined by other people. And so in many ways, I don't agree with the whatever. I'm not going to. I don't agree with that part, but I sort of see
shut me down.
He is right. I mean,
is ridiculous. Like it's all contextual thought.
Well,
it was just very interesting to see those kind of responses on a One Page Rules community page. Like that wouldn't be out of place on a 40K page, and those places are cesspits.
And me and Sam can speak to this from personal experience from Kings of War. Me and Sam see some of the danger signs that we saw with Kings of War, where people came to Kings of War from Warhammer Fantasy, and the owner at that point was just focused on the game. And then I don't know, Sam, I don't know how it felt, and I don't know for sure. It just felt that the owner just all of a sudden thought that everything he did was awesome, and that the people were there because he has great lore ideas or great model ideas, when really they were just there for a good, solid game. And I would always just want to use that as a cautionary tale that be careful about assuming why people are really there. It's called One Page Rules. So,
especially in a game that's once you get a community of a certain size, you've got to be careful about how you filter information and feedback, because what as humans we are kind of so prone to do is we want to focus on the stuff that is in support of what we already believe or we already think. And it's a very easy trap to fall into of, I have some of these people who are negative, but I also have these people who are telling me that, I'm great and that I'm awesome and that everything I'm doing is good. And they're supporting, like shutting down these people who are telling me things I don't want to hear or whatever, that are making me feel bad. And it's and I know I'm being a little bit I'm not trying to be condescending to people, because this is a really easy trap to fall into. So just be careful if you are a creator of any kind. You need to have at least some people that you trust who will tell you the things that you don't want to hear, and actually take that seriously.
Well, on that very good point, shall we swing the discussion back around to some chat about the actual rules that have come in? We've talked about assault pretty good. Do we want to touch on morale?
I think that the morale is actually a bigger problem. And I've had to think about, like all things, this is me. All of us have had to sort of stop what we're doing, but I've had to further think about it. And I think the morale rules are actually more problematic. At the very least, the assault rules are sort of points neutral. You really can just ignore them and play them. His assumptions about the morale rules have caused him to actually adjust points and that is actually much more difficult to fix now, because I feel he sort of thought, from what I picked up, he felt that the morale changes were actually that that morale wasn't as important now, and that we should lower the points on units. But with the -1 death, I actually feel morale is more important now. And in other words, I think he adjusted at the very least, the assault rule, he didn't adjust points. But he did in this call specifically mention that he's adjusted points based on his morale rule changes. Now that gets very problematic, and I don't think his assumption about Amaro are correct. He's done two things. One, he's adjusted points, and the other thing he did, which is massive, is he knocked down the undead. And I'm assuming this is why they did it. Oh, morale isn't as important anymore, so undead now only lose models on 1s or a 2. I mean, so I think this is actually good. And I've already seen people say it, don't play the assault rule. Well, the problem is that now points have been changed and have reflected on that. Now things have gotten more messy. Yeah,
that's why it's dumb commentary. Every time you hear people say, well, just don't do it, or just don't play the old versions or whatever. It's like that's just that's people who are not thinking take that a few steps forward in your logic, and you'll understand why that.
Well, you could do it with the assault rule.
Yeah.
That, from what I gathered, that was a net neutral point. No points were changed. Now we've got points changed, and with that combination of the undead, which has become very powerful. I mean, now undead have a quality check, and even if they fail it, it's only 1 or 2 now. I mean, Sam, as a person that's played undead, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's oh, it's gonna make I've got 20 zombies. You're basically gonna have to kill them all.
Yeah, you're not going to lose many to morale these days, are you?
Yeah, and I really see that that's a huge buff to undead that I think is not warranted, quite honestly, because undead is already and undead, and by undead adjacent things, things with the same kind of rule structure just are it's too much.
Bozz, are you a Robot Legions guy?
I am a Robot Legions guy.
How are you feeling? Are you dancing? How you feeling right now?
No, I'm not. It isn't that I dislike a buff. It's just that I don't think this was a necessary change, even though one of my armies benefits from it, and it does. I don't. If I was playing against Robot Legions and I'd finally gotten them down to 50%, so they take a morale check and they'd actually failed it, but then they roll anything but a 1 or a 2 and nothing happens. I mean, it's not going to make for a very good playing experience for one's opponent. So, yeah, and like Sam says, I don't think the buff was needed.
Yeah, this is where the real problem comes in. Now points have changed. And yeah, I don't, so that's the tough one right there, unfortunately.
And this is another game design trap that falls into, is if you're designing rules for a thing, and you have, let's say you set up your game and you have the rules a certain way, and then it's like, okay, well, what do I do from here? Things are kind of set, let's add this and tweak this and whatnot. And it's like, sometimes you got to be careful of not making changes just for the sake of making changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
the morale rule was fine. It was even across the board. If you failed morale, you were shaken, and shaken means you do nothing except remove shaken on your next activation, and that's across the board. My big problem with the new morale thing is that if I'm a higher quality unit and I'm, say, defense 4, then there's going to be a lot of circumstances where I'm just going to say, you know what, I am just going to camp on this objective. I can't claim it, but I can camp here and make life miserable for someone who is trying to take it. Whereas my human defense force, they're quality 5, defense 5. You can guarantee that on their shaken activation, I'm not doing anything but removing that token. And it's just another buff for higher quality armies. and just some other bit of slogging that my lower quality armies have to go through.
It's a buff except for quality 6. I mean, you can never fail. So really, the quality 6 units and morale and def are actually got a pretty. It doesn't matter how many of these nerfs are going in; they're still just saving
Yep.
on a 6.
That's it. All they're changing is halving their movement, and let's face it, your quality 6 units aren't your game winners.
Yeah.
Well, they might.
I wonder if any of
actually
this
end
was
up being your
reflected.
game winners.
Yeah, I really wonder if any of this was reflected in the points changes. It's these intricacies. There's interactions happening, and I would say this. I haven't gotten a chance yet to really dig into the formulas and dig in, but I don't know. Well, okay, so let's talk about I'm gonna so Boz, I think this is what I would actually say. I want to give the community a little more credit than I've seen in 40K. Like, I know all of us have been pretty, we've been pretty candid about our changes, and I think we've tried to be as polite as possible. Most people, you get a few people, but I actually felt the community has generally received criticism well. Perhaps people in OPR maybe haven't received them as well. I don't know. I mean, but so there's two things I'll sort of pick you to, Sam and Boss, I'll pick your brain. There's two things we can think about that. I would think, Boz, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I felt a lot of the feedback, the criticism has generally been well accepted in the community. At the very least, just to not jump on them. Is it one that OPR community is generally not quite in that what's the word? The state of Sam's talking about the fanboyism, or is it two that maybe the majority of the community agrees with the criticism?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think the OPR community is a really, really good community. I talked before about some of the responses that I've gotten, and they're not indicative of what I normally see on these platforms at all. What I got was a lot of responses saying valid concerns, I agree, invalid concerns, respectfully disagree. Everything. There weren't too many that were actually attacking me for having an opinion and daring to have an opinion and voicing my concerns. And I think the people who are really into this have been invested for a little while, and they're enjoying watching it grow into something bigger. And I think for some people it might be that, yes, they don't jump down your throat because they genuinely share some of your concerns to a certain degree at least, but also because they want to give this the benefit of the doubt. They want to go, all right, well, here's something that's happened that's hugely controversial, like massively controversial. I can't think of any other OPR rules release in recent memory that has caused this much of a kerfuffle. So maybe these people are just interested to see what happens, what changes as a result of community feedback and what they double down on.
Sam, what are your thoughts?
I hope that I get to be the cynic in the group here. I hope that that kind of infestation of the fanboys does not spread too much. I've seen that take over games before, and communities, and it's I would always say that I think it tends to be people don't tend to get so worked up over things that they're not really invested in, and that we really care about. I mean, we are critical of games because we want them to be good, and we enjoy them. So
Yeah, I think, and I'm asking that question because I think that One Page Rules, and I think that Boz, you hit it on it earlier, and Sam too hit on it earlier. This is not just some guy just in his room in the corner of the internet just typing up rules. This is really becoming a lot bigger thing. And my hope is the reason that none of us are paid for this. Sam or Boss has not gotten our millionaire yet. But I think I would hope that people realize that what we are trying to do is provide some feedback so that there can be success. And in OPR, right? I mean, we really, and we see this. I see it as a growing pain that, hey, you know, there is a transition to being a company, but with that, there is sort of the leader, you know, the OPR. I'll just stick to that. OPR has to make adjustments themselves, and that perhaps, let's see, if it is Mr. Gaetano may have some weaknesses, and some people have said that, hey, he's not strong in this. Well, that's why we have people who are. It's why, you know, it's why you that like there's some, and I in my business experience I've seen business owners who are really great at a really small business. When it gets bigger, they realize that they don't have certain skill sets, and they have to acquire those skill sets with additional people, right? So maybe that is right. Maybe that's just I don't know. I'm trying to be positive here. So anyway, we could go on forever, but let's just wrap it up real fast. Sam, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, you know, look forward to next month when we discuss the backtrack on these changes. Hopefully,
3.6.
Three. We're gonna skip 3.4 and 5, are we?
yeah. We're just gonna go straight to 3.6 and
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, I at least for me, I think the community in OPR for now, I feel, and you know, those who want to give it a chance, great. Let's do that. I'm sorry,
Also-
Bozz, closing thoughts.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're out of time. We can't talk about it, but there are some changes in this edition that I thought were good. For example, in firefight and skirmish, you now just can't be auto killed for being shot or attacked when you're shaken, and I do think that's good. We haven't had time to talk about the positives. There are some. We got to be real when we talk about this stuff. You know, I love OPR. I'm not going to stop my Patreon subscription. I'm not going to stop playing the game. We're voicing genuine concerns we have about a game that we enjoy. And I hope that's come across. Because, yeah, we've kind of torn them a new one because we need to explore this stuff and talk about it. But I hope that you listening to this, it's generating some thought, and it can generate some discussion, and it can generate some feedback that the creators can take on board in whatever way they see fit and move forward with it. That's my hope.
All right, Sam.
all right, go where the game is good, guys.
Any war game, anytime. Going where the game is good.